FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
There's been a lot of headlines about my next guest, especially as it concerns 2016. Joining me right now, the one and only Mr. Donald Trump. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hi, Dana.
It's good to speak with you. So you have
Nice to talk to you.
You have your eyes set on Iowa. Now, I know the last time you joined me on my program, we discussed this a little bit. It was something that you're considering. I'm reading that you're hitting the links with Boehner. You have your eyes set on going to Iowa. So is this consideration becoming a little bit more serious?
Well, Bob Vander Plaats has been a friend of mine over the years. He's a great guy, and he asked me to speak. I'm really speaking for him, and I think I'm going to really express the views of a lot of people in the country that hate to see what's going on with our country, and I look forward to it. I've been to Iowa, I have a lot of friends in Iowa, and I look forward to it. It's going to be Saturday night. I hear it's doing great, and I look forward to being with the people.
Yes, I'm sure a lot of people are anxious to hear from you as well. I know 2016, whoever the nominee is, and especially even during the primary, every contender is going to have a fight cut out for them because one of the big responsibilities is figuring out a way to unite the Big Tent going forward against the Democrat nominee. How would you even propose to approach such a problem like that? I mean, you deal with that in your everyday life. You deal with it on your show. How would you deal with it in this political sphere?
Well, the Republicans have to start getting along together. There's no question about it, Dan. If you look at what's going on, you have such a split, whether it's debt ceiling or Obamacare. I'm watching the whole Obamacare thing play out, and some are strongly against doing any funding, and others feel you have to fund. And, you know, frankly, depending on the way you go, they have to get along. They can't be tearing themselves apart, and that's been happening over the years. We had an election that should have been won, and Mitt is a great guy, as you know, but unfortunately he didn't resonate, and amazingly that election was lost. It's just an election that shouldn't have been lost, and I guess a lot of things happened, but he got off the track, and a lot of people got off the track, and the last 3 or 4 weeks of that election was really somewhat of a disaster.
Yeah.
And he ended up losing in not that close an election, surprisingly.
No.
You know, it looked like it was going to be an easy one to win for the Republicans, and they didn't win it, to put it mildly. So I'm going to go, and, you know, I love the country. I see what's happening. I see the way we've been pushed around and bullied around by China and so many other countries. You know, we used to be the smart one on the block and to make the good deals, and now we're making all the dumb deals, and we have $17 trillion in debt and lots of problems and lots of deficits. So I'll go and I'll give my 2 cents, and we'll see what people think. And you know, I have a tremendous following, millions of people on Twitter, and I don't know if they like me. I'm not sure they like me at all, but I think they agree with what I say.
Well, you're able to put a message out there, especially where it concerns limited government and business, that I think resonates with a lot of individuals. I'm sure that you caught the president on Leno last night. He's encroaching on some of your pop culture turf there. You mentioned jobs, and the president was talking about how the stimulus did so much, Mr. Trump, to create jobs, which statistically doesn't add up. And this from a man who wants to stand in the way of the construction and implementation of the Keystone Pipeline, which would create thousands of jobs. Did you catch that? What did you make of his appearance?
I did, and I mean, his appearance is smart. He goes on these shows, and I wish Mitt Romney did it because he was going on Leno, he was going on Letterman, he was going on all these shows, the president, just prior to the election, and frankly, you know, I wish our guy did that because I think it would have had an impact because you know, the whole thing was just amazing how that situation unfolded in the end. But the stimulus of this country, it's called jobs. You've got to take back the jobs. If you look at what's going on worldwide, and if you look at what the product that's being made for us, so much in other countries, and China is just one. China is the great abuser, but China is really just one, Dana, and so many other countries. You look at I could name 10, 15 other countries. They actually abuse this country. It's amazing to me, and we can take back the jobs, and it's so easy to do. You know, if you look at the manipulation of currency by China in particular, makes it very, very hard for our companies to compete. Mm-hmm. And there are ways to stop that that would be so easy, so effective, and they would stop in 2 seconds if they thought certain things would happen. So we don't do that. We don't play the game. We don't know what we're doing. And honestly, their leaders are just smarter than our leaders, and that's a problem.
Yes, absolutely. Well, and it's been said, too, recently discussing business and ceding ground, the president blaming Detroit basically on Republicans and business leaders. And, Detroit, the reason that city's filed for bankruptcy and their schools are crumbling, it has nothing to do with the Democrat leadership that's controlled it for decades, Mr. Trump, of course.
Well, it's hard to believe that he can even say that, and I heard somebody had mentioned that it was really the Republicans' fault about Detroit. Detroit has some very deep-seated problems. People know what those problems are. People don't want to talk about the problems, but Detroit has some very, very serious and very deep-seated problems that other cities have also, and you'll see them start to fall like dominoes pretty soon.
Right. I read on Politico, this was a headline just today, that you were out playing golf with Speaker Boehner. Do you get along with Speaker Boehner really well? How do you think he's doing as
I do. I like him a lot, and he played very quickly because he's so busy with everything, and he played well too. He's a wonderful guy. He's really, I kidded him. I said, I think you have the toughest job in the United States right now, keeping everybody happy, keeping everybody together. He's really a good guy, and he's doing, I really think, a great job. He's got a very, very difficult situation.
Yeah, it's not something that I envy at all, trying to work in Congress while barely holding the majority in the House and at the same time trying to maintain some unity on your side.
Well, and he's got two very divergent groups.
Mm-hmm.
And, one group is very hard line and the other is less hard line. And we won't say who's right or wrong because they're both right and they're both perhaps a little bit wrong, too. But he's got two very different groups and two divergent groups, and he keeps them together. And he's got a very tough job. I think he's probably got the toughest job.
Now, and going back to Iowa really quickly, if you decide, let's just say for argument purposes that you decide you're not going to run, is there anyone that you do have your eye on that if you choose not to get in and throw your hat into the ring, that you would like to see, maybe several people you would like to see duke it out during the primary? Because it looks like we're going to be dealing with Hillary Clinton unless we get Cuomo or somebody from New York or somebody else.
Right. Well, I know them all. I know the Democrats. I know the Republicans. I'm a Republican, but I know them all, especially, having been in such big business in New York for so long. So I can tell you that the race, and it'll probably be against Hillary, assuming her health is good and everything's good, and it probably will be. I think it's actually a tougher race than having beaten and, having run against Obama. I think this really is a race that could be a lot tougher. She's got a tremendously she's got a good thing going. The press is really loving her now. I read where they're doing movies and documentaries, and they're only going to cover very positive things. And I know her. I know her husband, and, I get along with them fantastically well. But I think it's going to be a very tough race. If the Republicans don't get their act together, it's going to be a very, very tough race. And actually, I think it's going to be a lot tougher race than the one they just lost. So it'll be interesting. It's too early to say. There's such a long way to go. I mean, number one, you have 14 coming up, which is a big deal. That's going to be a very important election, frankly. And a lot of people are actually saying that the Republicans can pick up seats and maybe even pick up the Senate, which would be an incredible thing. But they have a long way to go. So you have 14 coming up, and after 14, people are going to start thinking about 16. But I think it's too soon for people to really focus on that right now. I do think they should start focusing on 14 because 14 is going to be very important.
Absolutely. That is probably, the most important midterm election of our lifetimes right
in
there.
A long time. That's true.
Absolutely. Well, we're going to be watching you in Iowa, and because, like you said, 2016 is still a long way off, but everyone's kind of getting in position. So we look forward to talking with you again. Thanks so much for your time today.
It's been a lot of fun. Thanks a lot, Dana.
Take care. We'll talk soon.